Dookie.
Everybody give him a sound and video check, please.
Well, he looks ugly and talks too much. Okay, everything's going just fine.
Yeah, we know that part.
Are we up and at 'em?
Yes.
I'm not asking you. Okay, there we go. Hey, James. Oh, so another week has gone by, and he was making slow progress right now. According to the doctor's office, this is perfectly normal at this stage of things. Hey, adventures. So anyhow, that's her. Now, I went in for a number of things this week, but I had what do you call it? A regular checkup on Wednesday, and the kidney function test, it didn't pass. And so what they told me to do was stop taking any NSAIDs, and without asking, we decided to stop the energy drinks too, and I think there was something else. But anyhow, so trying to do what we could. And hey Brian, how's it going?
And hello, John.
So yeah, hello, John. And so the last few days have been kind of annoying because I've been...
Hi, SCP. Hi, everybody.
I've been kind of sleepy and achy and stuff. Let's see. Hey, Slick Willie. I think your shelf life is expiring, yeah. I understand that. Luckily, she loves me, or she'd trade me in for a lower maintenance model. But anyhow, so I go in tomorrow for another blood test. They didn't, it was lower than it should be, but apparently that can be caused by numbers of things. So they didn't seem terribly distressed about the whole thing. They just told me to stop the NSAIDs and come in next week and redo the tests and such. So that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, and we'll see how that's going. Aside from that, we're making some progress. Hey, Rocky Mountain.
Hi, Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, for some reason my eyes are working even worse than usual right now. Let's see.
Well, these are your good glasses.
Yeah, well, those work really good at distance.
Well, you are sitting at distance, dude.
Yeah, not far enough distance. That's the problem. Anyhow.
Got laid off. Gotta love corporate. Thankfully, I have paid off house and savings. Doing fine. Wow, James.
Yeah, that's just nice to not have debt. Anyhow, so with respect to the X-ray film thing, I've got some stuff in the can that I haven't edited yet, but the nitric acid stuff seemed to work, seemed too expensive, so I saved the material from that and then went to the bleach. The bleach seems to strip things pretty well, and it does fine with that. The costs are much less, and it gave me a sludge which I presumed was silver chloride primarily, and so I needed some way to turn silver chloride into silver. And if you look at Street Tips, he uses a whole bunch of sodium hydroxide plus some sugar. Doesn't give an exact formula, just kind of like an abundance of both, and I mean an abundance.
Brian Smith says 4-0 steel wool.
I'll get to it in a minute. And anyhow, that looked sloppy and created a lot of highly alkaline sludge. So I looked in some stuff I had, and there was an alternative method, which was to take the silver chloride, add a little bit of ferric chloride, and then react with fine steel wool. That's what the 4-aught steel wool is. And in theory, the iron would precipitate silver while going into solution as silver chloride. It didn't seem to do too well on the batch I had from my 2-kilogram sample using bleach. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm guessing there's other stuff in there. But I'll get to that in the next video when I have a little more chance to do something. Anyhow, so since that didn't seem to work too well, and it didn't look like pure silver chloride anyhow. Silver chloride is really bright white. And this didn't look it. So I thought, well, okay, what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and use nitric acid to dissolve the emulsion layer, and then I'll precipitate with hydrochloric acid. This was for 2 reasons. Number one, I was going to get pure chloride. And the other question was, if I add the hydrochloric acid to the silver nitrate solution that I got from washing the film in nitric acid, would I regenerate the nitric acid? Because if that would happen, then I would now be replacing expensive nitric acid with much less expensive hydrochloric acid, isolate. And so I did a test, and I also wanted to see what the exact consumption rate of the nitric acid was and stuff. So I started doing my usual process, starting with 500 milliliters of 20% nitric acid and 150 gram batches of shredded film. And then it took me, well, when I would do that, when I recovered the nitric acid again, there was about a 60 cc loss out of 500 cc's that I attribute simply to wetting losses. As you wet the film, some sticks won't come off. Okay, so anyhow, I did 4 batches at 150 grams of film each before my nitric acid was pretty much no longer really functioning at all to speak of. So I terminated the test, and all this is on video, and I'll be doing it. But at that point, then I precipitated the silver nitrate with hydrochloric acid, and it did regenerate the nitric to some extent. It increased its activity, but not dramatically. It should have dramatically increased its activity if the only consumption of the nitric acid was the silver. So my presumption is that the emulsion layer, which is presumably some sort of gelatin or similar type organic material, was also getting nitrated and removed. Now, not only does that mean I'm still going to have real high consumption of nitric acid. Hey, Dave. But I was probably making some kind of nitrated organic material. And those of you with enough chemistry that anything nitrate can get pretty energetic. So, hey, David. I decided that probably best to try the chlorine bleach again, but it did give me a sample of pretty darn pure silver chloride that I could then try that test on. And basically, this method was silver chloride plus iron gives a silver plus iron chloride. You just prime it a little bit with a little bit of ferric chloride to get it started.
Hi, Dave. Dave Vanderwalt's here.
And yes, I know. And anyhow, that seemed to work pretty well. I posted the video yesterday. The residue, I rinsed it a couple of times and then I dried it. And this morning it came out 2.7 grams of residue from 600 grams of film. Adjusting for the metric system and stuff, that comes out to basically 2 grams of silver per pound of film. Okay, assuming that that's all silver, should be pretty pure. It looks like pretty pure silver. But anyhow, that would be about $2 of entrained silver per pound of film. And I was using somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 of bleach per pound of film. So it's possibly profitable at this point, but I'm gonna do another 1 kilogram sample of something of film in the next day or two, and then rinse it much better than I did the last batch and see what happens.
Hi, Dave. I'm feeling pretty good, except for stitches that just are taking their time dissolving and keep poking me in inconvenient ways.
So anyhow, that'll be the next test to see how clean a silver chloride I can get out of the film, and go from there. So it's kind of fun. I don't know if I'm ever going to turn this into something that's potentially profitable, but I'm learning a lot about silver. For example, how do you reduce silver oxide to silver? And I'm wondering why street temps didn't do this. Once the thing, you take your silver chloride and turn it to silver oxide with sodium hydroxide. Then all you got to do is, basically rinse and clean your silver oxide and heat it to 200 degrees centigrade, and it dissociates. So that would have been, yeah, that's about right, Brian. Okay, thank you, Dave. He says, feel better, and he'll see you Wednesday. And so anyhow, we'll keep playing some games there. I'm learning a lot of chemistry with the silver chloride stuff. Now, Dave just came on here. As he said, we're going to be in Butte on Wednesday. Eva and I, we're going to be doing research at the Bureau of Mines. And when we're done with that, we have to touch bases with Jeff. He's been doing some testing where he's got some electrolytic debris that I'd like to see whether there's gold in it or not. So I'm going to give him a little bit of nitric acid to do that test. I don't think so, Harry. As far as I know, the consumption is basically the same as opposed to the wetting losses. Again, I'll define it a little more precisely as I keep going here. Okay, I'll keep you informed here, Brian. The silver that I got from that iron precipitation seemed to be very fine. It was just kind of agglomerating into little balls and stuff.
A bit. Now that's a source I never thought of, but yeah.
Anyhow, so once I make that handoff to Jeff, then we're going to go over to Dave's house. He's got some nitric acid and laboratory equipment from somebody who was kind of shutting something down that he's going to give to us. We thank you very much, Dave. And some wear plates and such. And so we'll visit him and Sherry, and we'll have a good time. Now, another thing too, vis-a-vis Dave, is Dave has a mine down in the general area of Twin Bridges, Montana, and he's decided that for a number of reasons, he'd rather focus on the mine he has in Oregon. The grade's a bit higher. The logistics is simpler in terms of he can process the ore right there at the mine. It's private property, patent claim, whatever. And so he's going to change his focus there. But he very generously has said if anyone wants to go out and do something out there at his mine, that he would be amenable to that. So you can probably, if that sounds like interesting to you, get a hold of me, the email, and we'll, transfer information as desired to find out whether it's something that you want to do, he wants to do, etc. Well, the other thing too, honey bunny, in terms of bleach, if I'm buying liquid bleach, it costs a certain amount. If I could buy pure sodium hypochlorite, like you used to be able to, it might be a lot more financially efficient. I don't know. So, anyhow, that's kind of what's going on with us this week, theoretically. And I say, Dave's got some stuff there. I did get those plans, Dave, so it'll be a piece of cake. And let's see, what else here? I did really like the silver chloride and steel wool method. It was very simple. It doesn't leave you with much in the way of toxic leftovers and such. I was quite happy with that. I'm still not exactly sure what's happening to the gelatin of the film in that case. Why is it dissolving? And maybe that was what was really complicating that precipitation the time I tried it. As I say, I will get another sample and I will really clean it with a bunch of boiling water multiple times to see if I can remove impurities, because the pure silver chloride seemed to work just fine. Now, another thing that we're running into here is that without the furnace, there's a lot of stuff we just can't do.
Gelatin wash.
Well, you would think so, but this is not regular gelatin either, because I can take that film, put it in boiling water, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Jeff was asking Dave what kind of mine it was. Hi, Jeff. Jeff Bybee.
Yeah. And
that's the
Hard
one
Rock
we've
Gold
been
Mine.
to, right?
Yeah, that's the one we were at.
Yeah. It's a very nice place. You can drive right up to it.
Yeah, he dug a small pit right next to it because the old workings are pretty kind of sketchy. So he decided to just kind of do a little stripping and stuff. But I'm not sure what it is that stabilizes the gelatin on the film. But you would think just putting it in boiling water would get it to come off. Answer, no, it won't. Which is a shame because, while that's kind of a pain to deal with boiling water, it's certainly really cheap. You know? So anyhow, I'm not sure what it is, but I'll get another sample and play with it some. It keeps me busy. It gives me interesting things to do. As I was saying, one problem is I can't turn all these samples. I can't smelt them down and see what happens because our furnace is kind of messed up. Well, I ordered the materials to fix the furnace yesterday or the day before. They should be in, I think, tomorrow. And so I'll get going on that. The plan is to completely strip the inside of that little tabletop furnace and rebuild it from scratch. And I think that I'll be able to do a much better job than it was when we got it. Much more durable for our purposes. And also a lot better in the condition it's in now. Yeah, exactly, Brian. I ask. Is there any place downhill? I don't know about, you mean like a placer down there or whatever? There might be, but it's not, Dave doesn't have claims on any placer there. But anyhow, yeah, I will be making a video on how I'm putting it together. The only question I have is the exact structural consistency of the insulating fire brick I'm getting and how good an insulator it is. So we shall see. Okay, yeah. I say he doesn't have any staked, Jeff. That might not be a bad idea to check the land status there and maybe stake some. That'd be interesting. But anyhow, so I will do that, make a thorough video of it. But assuming that the fire brick has sufficient insulation, what?
Lon wants to know if you've considered boiling the film in salt water.
No.
You might want to make a note of that.
Okay. It's cheap enough and easy enough to try. Boil film in salt water. Definitely easy enough to try. As a matter of fact, try acid?
Acetic acid, I believe, is what he's talking about.
I think he means acetic, yeah.
We gotta get some real salt.
Where's some salt?
I don't think we have any plain salt. That's what I was saying the other day.
Yeah, probably won't matter. Light salt should work.
Yeah, Dave says there's like 0 open ground in that area. Yeah.
Okay, so here I have a pan with some water in it. I'm going to pour, this is called light salt. It's half potassium chloride and half sodium chloride. Now I'm going to put it on the stove, and we can actually test this in real time. Sort of.
Yeah, Harry, that's something that I had actually been suggesting to this yo-yo earlier this week because I noticed that our Home Depot sells like 35 or 40% acetic acid. They call it cleaning vinegar these days. But yeah, they sell the nice strong stuff. And I was like, because I was dreaming about using acetic acid 2 years ago now, so I know.
Well, how much does it cost?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, it's probably wasted money. Are you happy with it? If you're willing to just throw it out on a guesstimate.
Oh, we're not going to be throwing it out. I'll be keeping that shit.
Yeah.
Once at a military auction, Jeff Bybee could have bought 28 gallons of acetic acid for any bid at all. It would have been a lifetime supply.
What concentrated? This stuff is 30% over there. I tried vinegar and that didn't work. Okay, but I didn't try more concentrated acetic, but I did try vinegar, and of course it was non-functional. And then here I've just taken some of the film and cut it up into these little strips, and it makes it real easy to do these tests. Okay. Like SSN what? Oh, okay. Saturated salt. It's not nitric in there. I have no nitric. I'm just going to do the hot thing. But anyhow, we will see what happens. Oh, and let's see. Oh, something else that was interesting this week. Chris Ralph had a video up. There's a new metal detector by Fisher. It's called the Gold Bug Tracker. Okay. Now, its sensitivity is not as high as, say, a Gold Bug 2 or whatever, but it's specifically designed for beginners. It's about $300, and it's got fully automatic ground balance, and you can basically switch it from all metals to discrimination mode. But even in all metals mode, it's giving you a digital readout on the target, so that you should be able to discriminate, call it manual discrimination there. I have no idea, Brian. I say, we shall see what we shall see. The problem is the nitric is being consumed by more than just the silver. Believe me, 2 grams of silver doesn't use up, what would that be, about 100 milliliters of concentrated nitric acid?
I mean, good grief. I can get practically 1 gram of silver per 2 milliliters of.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Silver nitrate. When Eva's doing her parting, she'll keep using the same acid until it starts crystallizing silver nitrate when it cools. So I got a timer going. The pan is on the stove, and so I'll check that. Once it gets to boiling, then I'll bring it out here, and we can actually do the experiment.
Well, according to Brian, if you use saturated salt and nitric, that SSN that dude wrote about in your pamphlet, it makes the nitric go a lot further.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can dissolve.
And that really hurt right then.
But again, the problem is it going to take the nitric and use it to dissolve the gelatin like it is already? The silver was not my big consumption.
Yeah.
Something else is consuming the nitric. That's the problem. So, as I say, I really don't know. Hi, Red Wing. Yeah, as I say, SSN leaching gold, absolutely. But am I in the field when I'm leaning back here, little one? Or am I?
No, you're not. You're way out of the field.
Yeah, I was afraid of. Anyhow.
Yeah, move it a little more over.
Even more?
Yeah.
It's going to make it fun. So anyhow, I say that gold bug tracker, I kind of like to get one because while it's not the high sensitivity that would be kind of cool to have at times, it'd be very easy to use, and so it'd be something that Eva, for example, could learn how to use very quickly. And there's a couple of places where when we're doing our thing, it'd be kind of interesting to be detecting the water courses and things like that and see what might be there. Apparently the big film processors like to simply ash the film and then process the ashes, which sounds like a perfectly reasonable thing to do if you've got the kind of furnace where you can ash it without much in the way of volatilization or just
Wage
particulate
Slave
losses.
commented on making your own nitric.
Yeah, I suppose you could, Wage Slave. There's all kinds of interesting things. We're saving all our copper nitrate so that Eva can electroplate out the copper and regenerate the nitric acid so we can recover it in the future too. Let me go take a quick look at this pan to see what's happening.
He'll be right back, guys.
So you'll have to take my word for it. It was boiling pretty good. So let's see what we get here. 2, 3, 4, 5. 13, 14, 15, 16. 25, 26, 27, 28, 30. No reaction noted so far. And that's the weird thing about this stuff. I don't know exactly what the emulsion's made of or what dissolves it. They were talking about ionic liquids like acetic acid might. But that's why I tried the vinegar and there's no reaction. I figured heck with it. I've got no reaction at all here. And since you have to have a reasonable reaction time, strip it in order to process it at a reasonable throughput, that's kind of my criterion. I don't want to spend like a whole lot of time and money just figuring out a few things if I could get a clue. I know that acetic acid was something mentioned that should dissolve the emulsion, but it didn't say how much. Are we talking glacial acetic? Are we talking at boiling temperature? What the heck's going on? I don't know. I know that vinegar at room temperature didn't have any noticeable effect whatsoever. I also tried acetone because I had some. I tried isopropanol at room temperature and no effect. So I don't know. But so far, boiling hot salt water has no effect. So it was worth a try because it's cheap. Let me get this out of the way before I mess something up. Anyhow, so there we go. Another way not to strip film, just like Edison. I know 3,000 ways not to make a light bulb. That's about the news for this week. Anyone have a subject they want to bring up or talk about or whatever? Have you heard anything about the Interior Department slacking up regulations?
No,
in
I
general?
have not.
Okay, so still no word on that. Let me know. I tried the glycerin on the film, and it had no detectable effect that I could see, Brian. None whatsoever.
Jean-Francois,
Hey, Jean-Francois.
pineapple juice. Really? That's interesting. Well, yeah, it's got bromelain in it, so like,
Yeah, I that was something too that was mentioned as a possibility, but where would I get that much that cheap, you know? So, yeah, if you had a good furnace sort of thing where you've got good exhaust scrubbing, it would make a lot of sense to get rid of all the film
unbelievable.
part first.
Ah,
In terms of the seismic activity, um, you having stuff around you, honey bunny, or are you talking about like over in the Mediterranean? I would agree with that, honey bunny. Those little Atlas missile silos, those look like you made a nice pad out of those because they were horizontal.
yeah, I know. They were selling one in Kansas a while back.
Yeah. What was the going price? Was it the military or was it somebody privately selling it?
Somebody privately selling it that had owned it, and it was like a couple.
Couple $1 million? Yeah. Ah, that would turn
It
out.
really wasn't all that bad since you had it opened up and shit.
Well, so far I'm not finding anything that's highly selective in dissolving the silver per se, Jean-Francois. I have things that. Okay. We seem to have had an internet interruption here. Is everybody still with us? Because, it appeared that there was an interruption of the internet itself.
Yeah, no clue what's that,
So-
but it claims everything's been reconnected.
Yeah, it says it's better.
And it says your chat successfully connected again. Okay.
Yep, we're here, Brian. I can see your little thingy there. Okay, good. Thank you, John. Jean-Francois. So, anyhow, when it comes to seismic activity, they're having some interesting stuff over there in the Mediterranean, basically around Santorini and Campi Flegrei. And nothing's gotten to the point where it's clearly, oh crap time, but it's definitely got people's nerves on edge. I know in Campi Flegrei, the government has issued a warning to people to watch out for carbon dioxide in poorly ventilated, like basements and stuff like that. They're noticing increasing volcanic gas release. And
CO2 is building up in place.
well, that's the CO2, yes, that would be volcanic gases.
I would think sulfur dioxide and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's another one of them. But anyhow, so that's concerning because you got, I think they said like 6 million people inside the general caldera area between Naples and Popoli and a few other ones. So that's something I've been kind of keeping my eye on, but it's not really hitting the news as much, so it's hard to get what I'd call good, reliable information. I think that Honey Bunny wouldn't be staying there she wouldn't have moved in there if there was any chance of an active volcano in the first place. But the stuff over near Santorini was also pretty significant. But again, they haven't got to the point where they're doing much in the way of evacuations or whatever, so I'm not sure
Hmm.
what exactly the situation is.
Good grief.
I also saw a paper that hypothesized that the real high grade gold deposits were quite often caused by the sintering of micro particulate gold as opposed to stuff that's actually in solution. Well, if you move to Japan, you better be pretty sanguine about geologic activity. Although I guess Indonesia would be kind of the same way. You know, when we used to live up in Whatcom County next to Puget Sound, we had checked out what the elevation of the house was, what the expected run-up of a tsunami event was, and all that other stuff, too. That, that's another spot where there's a really substantial geologic hazard that's well known. It's just pretty unpredictable. A month or two ago, they were having an interesting little earthquake swarm that I was monitoring a couple times a day and to see what happened. It just petered out after a bit. They're a lot better at predicting volcanoes and earthquakes. With volcanic eruptions, you got to have movement of material, and they can actually follow that seismically.
Oh, like Puccioli and stuff is shifted by 6 or 8 freaking feet here.
Yeah. I don't think it was 6 or 8 feet in this recent event. I mean, since 1940s maybe, but I'm not sure.
Well, they said it shifted more in the last year and a half than it had in the previous 30 or some such stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it was 6 feet though. I say it's definitely a lot more active than it's been, and it's interesting to watch. But if things go awry there, hopefully they will have plenty of time to get the people out, because you got, let's say, like 6 million people inside the red zone, so to speak. And the other, question on these sort of things is, how fast can you evacuate people?
Jean-Francois said there's more seismic activity when the sun's magnetic field as opposed to Earth's. I was actually just reading about that on Reddit the other day.
Yeah.
There's also a sub on Reddit now about heliobiology, about all the medical conditions and problems that people attribute to our sunspots.
200 miles from New Madrid, or New Madrid, I think is how they pronounce it.
Yeah, that said they were right.
That could get interesting if it happens again. The problem with the New Madrid quakes was you have no idea what the periodicity or anything is. In the case of the west coast of the United States, we have a really good idea of the periodicity. And so they're definitely overdue statistically. And I believe that makes it more likely they'll have a full zone rupture 9.0 quake, which would be catastrophic. And I'm just wondering what it would be over here. Not so much the quake itself or the direct effects, but if the West Coast got slammed, you're going to lose the functionality of all those ports for a significant period of time. You're going to have a lot of infrastructure damage, roads, railroads, things like that. And then you have the possibility of a lot of refugee issues. So I don't know how stressful in a, things are hitting the fan, what do you do sort of way, it will be over here. From the direct earth shaking and stuff, not a problem here, but yeah, that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of stuff in terms of strain on our resources and such. Interesting, Jean-Francois. What was the conclusion for the near-term future, basically, on that? I heard something that somebody had done some analysis. I think it was Russian, yeah. So I say I don't know what the conclusion is in terms of what's going to happen. Well, I know there's it's hard to tell. You can find just about anything on the internet, and there's a guy that's talking about how the Earth's magnetic field and the sun's magnetic field and the earthquakes and the this is and the that's is, and it's like, I have no idea whether or not he knows what he's talking about or is just really lucky that he don't, his stuff is accurate even though he's not knowledgeable or what. I have no idea. So I just don't know what's going on there. But that's a interesting time.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if we were entering a mini ice age, and you're welcome to.
So I don't know I forget what the conclusion of that study of the sun's magnetic fields was, whether it was, increased radiance, decreased irradiance, or what. So I'm not sure. I mean, we got lots of interesting things going on 6 ways from Sunday right now. Still haven't heard anything about when they're going to supposedly take a look at Fort Knox. Although for some reason there's a lot of gold moving into the United States right now.
Well, yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Just bizarre and unaccountable.
Thank you, Jean-Francois.
I mean, really, it's just bizarre and unaccountable shit.
They're so busy. They should have had it done already, but they got about a million other things.
Did you ever get over there to finish cleaning that room?
No, I got a couple of 3 days at this rate. I did some more work this morning, but when you're working at an hour a day, you don't get much done. And that's why being exhausted and hurting is really counterproductive. Yeah, that makes sense, Jean-Francois. I know there's been some correlations between that in the past. Oh, my back. Yes. You never realize just how much you use some over-the-counter pain pills until you have to stop taking them. Go cold turkey. I wouldn't be surprising, buddy. Haven't heard too much about the solar wobble, Jean-Francois. I've heard about the precession of the Earth's pole and, the Milankovitch cycles. But I hadn't heard much about the sun itself. Of course, the sun is a huge, huge factor. It's amazing how stable it is. Looking at other stars out there, we have an extraordinarily stable star that we're around. So what do we got here? Could be Jean-Francois. That's why they told me to stop them. So we'll see what happens. Say it was a combination of stopping the NSAIDs and stopping the caffeine at the same time. It's like, oh, well, this really sucks, the big one. It's like, wow, double whammy. So I'm not only uncomfortable, which I can deal with, but I'm sleepy, which I can deal with. But both at the same time, I'm not terribly productive right now. And we got one of the rooms over there to clean up. So working on that.
People are discussing the whole business of the Ukraine, the X outage today.
Oh, yeah.
And where the X outage comes from.
Well, then you got to honestly consider, is somebody routing it in such a way to make it look like actor A is doing it instead of actor B?
Well, Tesla got hit too.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? How's it going? Eva's recovering from her
When the
surgery.
group took responsibility of it that was formed in 2023.
I've got some kidney function questions, so that I had to stop NSAIDs and energy drinks and stuff a few days ago so we can get a repeat on the test. So it's been a little rough on me. Oh my goodness. By the way, Chris, we've been working on this X-ray film project here. Are you familiar with anything else that dissolves the emulsion from X-ray film easily? Yeah, that's got to be tough, Chris. I mean, I'm whining and sniveling, but you got something to whine about, Is it getting back together again? I guess the fire danger's pretty much over there in California for the moment now. I presume, yeah, you know that Lars.
Gabriel Griffin. Hi, Gabriel.
Hello, Gabriel. How's it going?
We have not tried oxalic, Chris. We certainly can. I believe we have oxalic acid hanging around.
Where?
A big jug of it.
Huh?
Oxalic acid.
I know what it says. Where do we have a jug of oxalic acid?
With
for
my
what?
crystal cleaning stuff, because it was one of the things we used for crystal cleaning.
Thank you. That's what I was saying.
The Ukraine has been corrupt as hell for practically its entire existence.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. We can try that too. We're trying various little things and seeing what works and what doesn't. So far we found a lot more that don't. Nitric acid works pretty well, 20% nitric, and laundry bleach works pretty well. Barkeeper's friend. Would that be like for polishing brass, Jean-Francois? I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, that's
Phenol. I tried isopropanol, and I tried MIBK, and I tried
yeah, barkeeper's friend is a polish.
what is it?
Powder.
Oh my God. What's the organic liquid we use?
Hold on, he'll be right back, guys. No, Brian, it's actually a product called Barkeeper's Friend. It's in, the last time I checked, it's in a gold metallic can. It looks like a Comet can.
Acetone.
But it is called Barkeeper's Friend. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. I say, I've tried acetone too. Nothing else has had a substantial effect on the emulsion. Yeah, find it. Brian. Where's powdered sodium hypochlorite? Can't find it. I did the what is it, calcium hypochlorite. I tried that. It wasn't as good as the bleach, you know. Huh. Nope, no luck with acetone, not a bit. I think it made it a, just a little teeny bit sticky on the surface, basically. That was it. Hey, Forrest, how's it going? I presume it's been pretty warm down there lately. I mean, we've been up to 50 up here. This has been a really mild winter. Ah, so that's it. The gelatin gets hardened when you get the fixer, huh? Okay.
Hi, Forrest.
I was wondering because that emulsion doesn't seem to be too uh, easy to mess with. That's why when you use the fixer, it actually modifies it and hardens it then, huh? Okay, that makes sense. I don't know, to say. You know where the oxalic acid is? Like, well, I don't know.
It's in a gray gallon jug that was with the other crystal cleaning stuff, along with my iron out. I believe it's a gray gallon jug.
I don't know. Let me take a look. Uh, let's see.
We will be right back, guys. Oh, good grief. I'm trying not to get up. Yeah. Barkeeper's Friend is one of my favorite, one of my favorite things to clean with. Anyway, yeah, there's supposedly stitches are supposed to be dissolving, but considering the way I feel like I'm being stabbed with needles interiorly, I'm pretty sure they're not dissolving. I've also had pieces come out in one piece, so I'm pretty sure they're not dissolving. But it's making it very difficult to sit, which is why I did not want to move and come over here, because that chair is softer than this chair. At any rate, silver and gold are still on sale. Eggs are still rising, so if you want decent eggs, either find somebody with chickens now the spring is coming, or stock up on eggs. They will last for months in the fridge. That's where we are with that.
Either of these?
Yeah, I believe this is the oxalic, actually. No, it's not. It might have been. No, wait a minute. Hold on. Urea hydrochloride and glycolic acid. No, the oxalic was a different jug that we bought before. It's the wood stain. This is the iron out. No, it literally says wood stain on it. Or wood bleach or something. Honey bunny, they're always busting freaking egg scandals. There's 19 zillion egg scandals. That's not the point. It doesn't matter why eggs are the way they are. Well, we all know why eggs are the way they are in terms of shortage, because Biden killed all the chickens. But that's beside the point. Yeah, the government is now apparently looking into collusion amongst the big egg companies, which is ridiculous. Hi, Red Wing. Yeah. The DOJ is looking into it for some bizarre circumstance. The point is, regardless of what's going on, we have a shortage of eggs. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all that egg prices are going up anyway, because if you looked at the price of feed lately, it's ridiculous. Not to mention they just had a recall on several different varieties of animal feed this week. So there is that to be considered as well. I don't think the government belongs in here other than making sure nobody's killing fucking chickens again. That is just absolutely stupid and ridiculous shit. Anyway, silver and gold are still on sale. So pick up your precious metals and pick up your eggs. And it's probably a good idea to look into keeping chickens if you can, and starting to grow some food if you can, because things are looking a little bit weird. I will let him back here so I can go sit in a comfortable chair again. Oh, yeah, Chris, they had a whole recall of they had a whole recall of various types of animal feed because cattle feed primarily, but also some goat and some other stuff. They had a recall because the nutritional values were not where they belonged for the type of feed that was being sold. The cattle feed could actually make the cattle sick or kill them. And they also had a recall because there was contaminated feed that was like causing mold and death and shit. So.
Yeah, life's getting...
Ethylene dichloride will devolve plastic X-rays. Yeah.
Yeah, except...
Hi, Jeff. Jeff Kablock's here. Well,
Hey,
we're
Jeff.
back to 1929. Yeah, let me put it that way.
Ethylene dichloride, that should be an organic solvent liquid, I would think. How's things going with you, Jeff? We're still keeping busy over here. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going crazy right now. Adventures. This is some of her oxalic acid that she's using to...
So you found the wood bleach?
I have a tub that says oxalic here that has some crystals in it.
Don't know if it's
That's
still
good, Jeff.
I don't know if it's any good still. 84, wow.
Yeah, it's been a mild winter, that's for sure. So far, no reaction on the oxalic acid.
Well, I don't know how dead that is. It's been... Yeah, those crystals are ready to come out of there too, so...
Well, that would be undesirable, Jean-Francois. Especially when we're in Montana. You're in Kanakistan. Oh. Well, that didn't work. So, tried that too. That's over here where it's a little safer. Oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. I would agree, Chris. Ouch. What will be 5,000 years? What's your bet, Jeff, on what they're going to find in Fort Knox? Assuming they get to it soon enough. I wonder if anyone's got like a trail camera keeping an eye on the trucks.
Well, the thing is, Fort Knox has seals on it, so unless they use one of the secret tunnels that goes into it from the outside, how are they going to get the gold back in without disturbing the seals?
I don't know.
Just saying.
I don't know how you're going to get tons of gold back in without...
The silver interests me more than the gold, Jeff, but that's because I'm me.
Yeah, that sounds great, Jeff. Is that in the ground, or is that the stuff that was in the dumps? Because I know you had some dump material you wanted us to evaluate that was running like an ounce to the ton. As I recall, you were going to give us about 10 tons so we could process it and figure out all the metallurgy on that.
I think he's saying that stuff that he mined before that he still has.
I think that's probably what's still
Only
in the
half,
ground
but
there.
most of it leased out. 100 or more contracts on one bar of gold. Wow. Yeah, that would not surprise me at all, Jeff. As a matter of fact, I think there's considerably less than half there. Just saying.
I've tried using fairly strong sodium hydroxide, Jean-Francois, up to 8%.
And Jeff says dump in placer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it should be an interesting summer, Jeff. We should have some fun. Oh. I'm not sure what's there, if anything, Forrest. What would be worse? If they opened it up and there was nothing, or they opened it up and it was obviously fake, like gold-plated tungsten or something that they were able to do. Which would be worse for markets, I wonder? Yeah, I usually run them hot too, Chris. Yeah.
3 loads with one mine has 180,000 ton.
130,000 ton reserves.
180,000 ton reserve.
Yeah. Sounds pretty good, Jeff.
It was closer to saturation, certainly more.
Yeah, I say. On the other hand, the bleach strips it in 5 seconds. So, and it's pretty easy to deal with. The other theoretical problem with sodium hydroxide is going to convert the silver to silver oxide, and likely. Say it's interesting stuff. I try all kinds of things. 400 pounds lead, huh? Yeah, you're still planning on showing up around the 1st of June, if I recall right, Jeff?
Good industrial concentration bleach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff says find the lead and you find the silver.
That's generally how it works.
Brian says 5 seconds cold.
Yeah. Yeah, the bleach does it in 5 seconds cold, yep.
If Fort Knox is empty, what percent of computed world physical reserve will be missing? How much will it in place to swap like? That's always a question, Jean-Francois.
Well, it's not only the mathematical situation, but what's the psychological situation? If they find out that, again, I don't know, but I think so much of how our systems work on essentially faith and such, and once you shake that faith, I don't know what the follow-on effects are going to be. It's fascinating to me. One of my daughters, I'm talking very well with her, but she's basically, leans on the liberal side, etc. And it's fascinating to see the two different perceptions of reality that we're consuming. It's fascinating.
Is night in Spanish noche? Is that feminine or masculine? El noche or la noche?
I'm pretty sure it's El Noche, but I'm not.
I know it's
certain.
El Dia for days.
Yeah.
I think it's La Noche for nights. I'm going to have to look it up.
I mean, somebody brought up an interesting point on this Ukraine situation where it's like, it's really important to understand what the situation is.
Buenas.
To ascertain what the optimal reaction would be. And, if you've got an expansive imperial power, then stopping them at almost all costs is potentially a reasonable option. If you have someone who's simply reacting to provocative acts and feeling encroached upon, then de-escalation is really quite plausible. And so what the situation is really important. The other question is what is the relative military strength on both sides? I mean, can NATO effectively stop Russia? If Russia really tried, can NATO effectively stop them or not? These are important questions.
Well, let's talk about metals.
Yeah, I think the stock market was down today, especially
Yeah,
Tesla.
The stock market is going crazy right now. Everybody is saying they're not even looking at their portfolios. It's imploding.
Why? Any idea?
Probably deliberate. Probably a massive deliberate sell-off.
Okay.
Everybody pumped it, and now it's being dumped.
Pumping up, huh?
Oh yeah, pretty much. Everybody's figuring that this is probably a deliberate attack.
Because I know the Tesla thing. I mean, that's obvious what's going on there.
NATO probably can stop them now. Nah. NATO don't have crap without us.
Some of the analyses I've seen are would strongly disagree with you.
NATO don't have squat without us.
Jeff says it's a crash going on right now.
Yeah, it's a crash happening.
Well, part of the thing is too they want to forget the name. I'm hunting for a word, but basically make Trump look bad.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was a timed event. This is a timed event. That's why I'm telling everybody, if you've got cash money, don't I wish we had cash money right now? If you have cash money, this is the time to buy gold and silver. Because we are going through a stock market crash. Who knows how bad it's going to get? We are going through a crypto crash. Who knows how bad it's going to get? A lot of it is being engineered by some asshat people. Plus, we have all this World War III nonsense going on.
Well, and you've got the whole...
I have not had a chance to look at George Gammon today yet, Jean-Francois.
I did see something that he put. I didn't actually watch the video, but I saw that. I'm subscribed to his channel. Yeah. Trump is unique. I mean, so many people will agree. He annoys the hell out of me, but he seems to get things done. You know? Jean-Francois, is it worth it to borrow money to buy gold? That would depend on your situation. For example, Jean-Francois, let's suppose you had a house that was 50% paid off. Now, you're not going to be able to pay it off anyhow in the near term or whatever. So you're going to have a big mortgage. So would it be worth to say take 10% out on it at a low interest rate in order to buy gold? I don't know. Risky. On the other hand, can you trade something else for cash to buy gold? I don't know. So I'm pretty averse to risk, but sometimes I'm too averse to risk. So don't take my advice on that, but just look at your situation. You missed the tide.
Jeff said, dig it. You missed the ride.
Could be.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, Jeff. But if someone does not have the option to dig, now, I personally, I wouldn't be borrowing on my real property unless I got a really low interest rate, because when stuff goes
south,
when stuff goes south, yeah, they maybe limit down today, Polka Face. Like I said, I've been telling everybody online, well, if you actually believe in your portfolio, you should be celebrating and backing up the truck right now, because you're going to get a lot of stuff on sale.
Now here's another possibility. Suppose you had a second house.
Yeah.
That you could afford to lose.
Jeff, Jean-Francois up there in Canada, I don't think he's actually got a mind of his own right now. But yeah, Mexico will be shutting us off. Canada's going to be shutting us off on everything. Have you noticed the crazy Canadians are planning to freaking start charging an extra 25% for electricity? Now, I told Doofy over here, I told him that as far as I'm concerned, we should have told Canada a long time ago, you can keep your hydro, you yo-yos. We should have our own power plants over here. There should be none of this bullshit of buying energy across international borders, because you never know when somebody is going to stop being your friend. As we're seeing now, these people are only our friends, okay? They are only our friends because our wallet is open. As soon as you start talking to them about closing the wallet, as soon as you start talking to them about level circumstances, all of a sudden they ain't your friends no more.
Well, I would generally say you don't want to borrow if you don't think the economy is going to do well. But say there's a possibility if you have an asset that you can default on without a problem. Let's say, for example, say an extra property. You say you had a spare house somewhere. You borrow on that mortgage to buy gold, and then you can easily default on that mortgage. You just lose the house, but you change that equity into gold, and now you can walk away from the house.
Yeah, or you can buy a house with gold.
Well, you buy the house with gold in a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Well, Warren Buffett is not exactly... Warren Buffett has his blind spots, okay? Now, I personally do not believe in punitive tariffs against our allies. However, if an ally has a 50% tariff against a product we make,
reciprocal tariffs are fine.
Reciprocal tariffs are fine.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to charge exactly the same tariff to them that they're levying on us.
I would agree, Forrest, but that's what I was saying. If you have a separate property, that you can basically go full debt on that one property with the assumption that you're going to lose it. But, then again, your net debt is zero because you got rid of that property and turned it into cash. But that'd be a very special situation. I agree. I don't like being in debt. Actually, I'm a bad person. I go into debt too easy. I'll put money on a credit card or whatever. So it's always best for me. It's turned out well. Just go cash. No credit whatsoever. Just go cash.
Well, I'm a 100% believer in... I'm a 100% believer in cash.
Yes, so that's basically where we're at. But I say, depending on the person and the situation, there may be a niche where it would be appropriate to borrow off something that you're just going to dump. On the other hand, could you just sell it? I don't know. If the market was good, you might be able to sell it, but if you can't sell it, that's another thing too. What happens if you're in like a housing market where nobody can buy?
I dug my gold and silver. Gold was $3.40 and silver was $4 an ounce. Yeah.
Yeah. I say it's I think we're in one of those times where these are really unusual times. And
well, they are trying to crash the stock market. They're trying to start a full-on panic in the stock market and crash it entirely.
Yeah, so they blame it on Trump.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to blame it on Trump and the tariffs. And business people know damn well better. Reciprocal tariffs are not a problem. They're going to try to use a stock market crash to pressure Trump to do what the fuck they want.
Well,
and to shut down Doge and shit. You watch.
Yeah, the Doge thing, that's really got them scared, in my opinion. Market down 4% in one day. Yeah, that's pretty good. Drop.
Oh well.
Good for you, Jeff.
When it comes to the market, I think it was Warren Buffett of all people who said that it's something about it. If a stock is good, then when it drops, your attitude is great. It's on sale, and you buy more.
I think it might have been Warren Buffett said, you should never buy a stock.
Yeah, Musk is not taking Social Security from anybody. That's ridiculous. Social Security is like broke anyway, but that's beside the point.
Well, I don't know how Musk could take Social Security from anyone.
You can't.
I mean, first of all, he has no authority per se. He can make recommendations.
Gold is absolutely the king's money. Silver is the money of gentlemen.
You know,
Barter is the money of servants, and debt's the money of slaves.
the thing that I got a question about is how many people who think Red Bar is waiting. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jameson. Oh, the thing I don't understand is why they say that Musk is going to take money from the government to line his own pockets, and it's like, how can you do that?
Because they've been doing it successfully for years.
You know, it's like Trump will let Musk do whatever he wants. It seems unlikely to me, Jameson, but we'll see. You know.
Brian, Buffett knows perfectly well that reciprocal tariffs are not actually acts of war. Warren Buffett has just fallen into the modern monetary theory as opposed to actual economics, as in Austrian economics.
Well,
this country grew to greatness on tariffs before income tax.
An act of war is what someone perceives as an act of war, too. You know? Are we definitely shaking things up? You bet.
We should be shaking things up. It's about time people got the message. We wanted to find out who our friends are, so we closed the wallet, and we're actually trying to get people to play on an even playing field. And it is pissing a whole lot of people off.
Well,
that is the problem.
Say that the whole situation is extremely complex. And I just find it interesting that Doge is finding so much stuff that appears to be such blatant fraud. And so I'll wait till we see what they actually, because you can't steal money in large quantities nowadays without leaving a paper trail. And one of the problems with this cashless society that the I don't know, call it the elite class has been working for, is that if you don't have cash, how do you bribe politicians? You know, checks are not ideal for that sort of situation. So I say it's going to be interesting when they actually track down the money and see where it's been going.
I'm a big fan of Jefferson.
Yeah.
I would be a big fan of getting back to actual money as opposed to this debt-based currency BS. And Warren Buffett absolutely loves his debt-based currencies, you know. Bitcoin is the ultimate fiat. It is imaginary debt-based currency. No, it's not money.
Well, it's
Now, mind
pretty
you,
wild.
the goddess firmly believes that if y'all want to buy Bitcoin, well, if y'all can acquire Bitcoin super cheaply, then absolutely acquire such things. But no, it's nothing that I would ever trust for anything, any more than I trust a
That's
credit
not
card.
your emergency reserves. It's a speculative investment.
Yeah. I don't even see it as an investment. I say it as a very fancy form of gambling with extra steps.
That's called an investment. Yeah.
No.
Speculative investment is a form of gambling. Absolutely. Now, both Musk and Trump are disruptors and kind of wild cards with, I don't know which one is more so. You know?
Yeah, I'll glad. Well, actually, it was I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, I'd say I'm just finding it interesting that this Doge is finding so many things. I I was expecting there to be big trouble quicker, um, but as usual, I can see things a little easier than reality moves. Yeah, I say this whole situation. You can't if you find 20 million people supposedly alive still on the Social Security rolls, you know you've got a problem. But that doesn't define what the problem
Hi,
is.
Mr. Virtue.
So the question is, why are they there? Are they simply completely incompetent? Or is this part of some sort of nefarious act to redirect money in some way, shape, or form? It seems the amount of discrepancy is so high that nefariousness is the most likely thing.
Yeah, never invest in something you don't understand. That's another facet right there, Forrest. Well, you see, I have never understood what you could clarify or qualify as a speculative investment.
It's
My
one that
idea-
you can afford to lose. You're only doing it to try and make money.
Yeah, but
it's high risk, high return.
yeah, and it's not an investment; it's gambling.
Yes, that's what a speculative investment is, as opposed to a secure investment.
A regular investment is the only kind I believe in.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Virtue.
Well, let's say like Warren Buffett does, but there's other things that are called speculative investments, shorts, things like that. Those are speculative. Yep. So it's just getting. I mean, but I'm intrigued by the socio-psychological aspect in terms of how many people are convinced of basically mutually exclusive things, you know, and some people who are relatively intelligent on both sides, relatively well informed on both sides. And it's quite fascinating to watch this thing, I think at this point, unravel is a reasonable word. I'm going to take a quick break here, folks. Eva can yak in the corner for a second if needed.
I am going to yak from off screen, people, because this chair is more comfortable than that chair, and I'm not comfortable as it is. In case you missed it, there was a massive cyber attack against X and Tesla today. X was really weird and glitching out all day, which is an entirely, I mean, it was crashing everywhere. People could not log on. The whole world was freaking out. And it turns out that it got traced back to Ukraine, of all places, which should surprise absolutely nobody. The hacking group that supposedly is claiming responsibility formed in 2023 for some bizarre and unknown reason at the moment. And yes, Horst, the stock market has become a casino. It's been entirely divorced from reality for a long time now.
Yeah.
So that's my problem with that. I am watching this crash thing. People are talking about it online, and I'm like, well, if you really thought your stocks were worth it, you'd be saying, oh, hell yeah, and you'd be trying to get a hold of some liquid cash so that you could get online and you could load up on more stock while it's at yard sale prices. A lot of people apparently do not have that much faith that the value of their stock is actually consistent with the actual value of the company behind it. So that is something to be considered there.
Yeah, Mr. Virtue, exactly. And
well, some of us are tinfoil hat goddesses, so yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even Eva and I, who are so in accord on so many things. We still will disagree on certain things pretty substantially. Just make sure that the um, various materials will not precipitate uh, anything from solution or get corroded by it. For example, if you had like brass or things like that, that could be a problem, John. Who changed the time? Not sure. It was Carter, wasn't it? I forget who's.
Yeah, I think Carter got us into that.
I think that was Carter, but I'm not sure, Lars.
Bunch of bullshit is what it was.
Oh. How are you doing, Lars?
Yeah. I'd watch for contaminants or it coming apart, John, but yes.
Yeah. No, I don't see a problem with the concept of a filter press, but you have to see what the materials are and things like that. A lot of them use cast iron and such, which would be fine. I'm afraid of this for maple syrup. It might have a lot of brass in it.
Or copper.
Brian says it was Truman. 316 stainless. Stainless tends to precipitate gold out of the Eco Goldex solution. You might consider putting a coating on it, you know, something like a varnish or something to that, if that's reasonable. Take it apart, coat each part with a thin coating of something that won't react, and then put it back together again.
Lars says he's still eating breakfast. Yep.
Really? Wow. Working the night shift.
We always use cash. Of course, you know, cash may not be money, but at least it's currency.
Well, at least it still works at the moment.
Yeah.
So, well, if you're still eating breakfast, Lars, you may have missed there's apparently a market crash going on or something. Brian says Woodrow Wilson.
Wilson did a whole bunch of bad stuff, so it would not surprise me if he had done that too.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this, the whole concept started in Germany to begin with for some bizarre and unaccountable reason, or so they claim online.
Well, they're never wrong online, right?
Well, this came from AI, so AI is never wrong.
Human Firm Time Act of 66 set the dates and extended the date. Okay.
Okay. Well, regardless of how it happened, it needs to go away. The goddess totally and completely disapproves of this entire idea. That is the only good thing about Arizona, which otherwise universally sucks rocks, as we all know. Now, Brian Smith says in 1918. Well, it may well have started. You know, I mean, I heard the time zones themselves started back in railroad days.
Yeah, that they did start in railroad days because they needed to have something uniform so trains didn't run into each other.
Oh, yeah.
They had a couple of really, really bad wrecks. Back when people were a major cargo, a big wreck like that could get very catastrophic. But yeah, that's why they had to come up with the time zoning thingy. Yeah, except every time you move more than about 10 or 20 miles, it would change. You know? So yeah, they're based on solar time, like Mountain Standard Time is solar time in Denver, Colorado.
Well, I will say this. I will say this. I'm thinking maybe we should all agree on something else like sidereal time.
No, you need to go solar time, sidereal time.
Okay. So something like solar time would definitely be better. All I want is no more daylight savings. There was no reason to do this whole clock thing.
Well, solar time is what we're on with the modification, so that you don't have to have a clock that changes second by second as you move. You know, you have lines on the ground and say, okay, on this side, every clock says this. On that side, every clock says that. If you did local solar time, you wouldn't have that. And say, because it doesn't take much to change. Mr. Virtue, I did a test batch with some nitric acid and then converted the silver nitrate to silver chloride and then turned the silver chloride to silver, and it seemed to work pretty well, but the consumption of the nitric acid is way too high. It's clearly not being consumed only dissolving the silver. And not only does that mean it gets really expensive, but you should be making nitrated organic compounds that way, which is probably not generally a good idea, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You know, things like nitrocellulose, nitroglycerin.
Steady Eddie says, what are you doing?
What are we doing? Right now we're kind of chatting in general, but the basic subject is precious metals mining, processing, and things like that. Any buttons? No, I got about 2 grams of precipitate.
Currently, the furnace is not working, so there will be no buttons until furnace has been fixed.
Yeah, I should be working on the furnace this week, getting it rebuilt.
I'm busted.
How's it going?
Woo, busted here.
Haven't seen you in a while. Well, those of us that have cell phones, they do. No, I've got a lot of stuff that I got to smelt down to see how much silver is in the various residues and such. But we got to get the. Have you seen the condition of the kiln right now, Mr. Virtue? This is pretty hilarious. Thank you, Eddie. Let me show you what's left of this kiln right now. Hey, that's actually pretty good lighting in there. As you can see, it's a little bit the worse for wear. So my plan is to strip it to the metal cabinet and then completely reline it and replace the element and a few other little things there. Actually, the optimum speed was at 20% nitric, Jean-Francois. I had 70%, and 20% was the fastest. So anyhow, you can see how messed up that is. That's a good description, Jean-Francois. He says it's a train wreck of in a kiln. Yep. Yep. I have no idea, Lars. So anyhow, it was working when we shut it off. Yeah, Chris Georgie was instrumental in helping us learn how to make new heating elements and stuff. Didn't try hydrogen peroxide, Jean-Francois. And I have no idea.
Out there.
What time is it? I don't know. Let me look. It says 7:39 local time. But you can see why. Basically, instead of pressure washing, I'll just be able to, all that lining will come out real easily. And I'm just going to start with the metal cabinet. I mean, I can use the same electronics and control panel, of course. And then just rebuild the interior. I've got a good, that layout I had with the latest heating element seemed to work pretty good. But again, trying to get the, well, right now, being in Montana,
By the way, you are welcome to take a look. There is nothing else in this notebook.
not anymore, which is why I was expected it here. That's why I said you could take a piece of paper off of it and it would have been simpler. Since it's Montana in the wintertime, it's difficult to do any field work. And so we're doing repair and maintenance stuff. And right now, in terms of minerals, not much, although I do have some gold cons to smelt down. But yeah, a couple of grams, something like that. What did I put that in? I guess I put it back there. Yeah. But anyhow, how's the minor Bago doing? Right now it's parked right over there with battery tenders on it. We haven't fired it up in a while, you know, since last fall.
Do you need me there, or can I sit in a more comfortable
You can
spot
sit in the
for a
chair.
while?
I don't care.
Because you're like totally off the screen here.
Yeah. The minor Bago still running. Probably needs a carb rebuild. Seems like one of the circuits is plugged up a little bit. I had hoped to get that done during this winter, but we've been busy doing other stuff. But it was working fine when we shut it down. I got battery tenders on it, and so it should be fine when we fire it up. We shall see what we shall see. Oh. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty ugly in there, Lars. Take care, honey bunny. So, as I say, with the furnace, I'm just going to clean it all out. There's a insulating fire brick, 1.25 inches thick, that I'm going to cut and groove and everything, and then glue them to the metal walls and jam them in and stuff. And so by the time it's done, assuming that the fire brick themselves are a reasonably good insulator, and it says they are, and I can make the little grooves and stuff for the elements that I want without a problem, then should be pretty good. You know, should be fairly straightforward stuff. The question is the fire brick itself, and then make another heating element, put it all together, and try it out. See what happens. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful it'll do well. Oh. Yeah, Chris has been a lot of help on a lot of things here. So while he's here, I want to mention that he's been very helpful. When it comes to gold mining stuff and everything, it's still another couple months before we can do much outside anymore. We can't fire up the mill. We can't do anything at this point to speak of. Yeah, we've stripped the bit of resin that we had, etc., etc. Oh, okay. Any other questions or anything? What's the new gentleman here?
Steady Eddie.
Hey, Steady Eddie, do you have any particular questions about gold mining or anything?
Yeah, you only have 13 people at the moment.
Yeah.
Very hot. You must use high quality glassware without any defects, chips, or cracks. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, that sounds like.
That sounds like a SpaceX launch waiting to happen. Okay, well, so I think that's about it. What we research over at the Bureau of Mines, where do you look for it? Okay, that's a good question, Steady Eddie. In this area here, it has a history of gold mining. There's an old saying, where do you hunt for elephants? In elephant country. Where do you look for gold? Where it's been found in the past. And so, over the years, hundreds of thousands of prospectors have combed the western United States. And a lot of the gold, probably the majority of the stuff that outcrops on surface, has been found. There's stuff that didn't outcrop on surface, etc. One of the best ways nowadays is to go to the place where the literature is held. In our case, it's the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology, and look at old records. Another thing is, I presume you haven't had a lot of experience with my channel, but if you go to my channel main page and go down, there's like 3 main things, and you'll see a playlist on how to find your own gold mine. And that kind of takes you through the process in a kind of a coarse manner, but it's fairly thorough. And for example, one of the things that the old timers would do is they would check for gold in the various creeks, rivers, and stream beds. And if there was any gold deposits in that drainage, then you could find it in that creek bed, and from there you could follow it uphill, sampling as you went, until you found the ore body from which it came. And that it's a very effective way of doing it, but that's kind of the old way they used to do it, because it works and it doesn't take much except a shovel and a gold pan. Right here, literally yonder, about a mile, about a mile, is a place called Last Chance Gulch. And that was where some guys, they were out looking for gold, and they had looked a variety of places, and they said, if we don't find it here, we're going to go to Alder Creek, where there's a gold rush going on. And so this was their last chance before they just went over to Alder Gulch. That's why it's called Last Chance Gulch. And a lot of gold was taken out of there. But that's how they do it. And so, say if you're really interested in the subject, if you go to my channel and look at that playlist on how to find your own gold mine, it'll kind of work you through the process. First 2 videos are kind of general theory, and then it gets into a little more of the detailed methodology. So depending on how interested you are, you can go as far as you want on that. I'll be doing another playlist on milling in the future too. gold, the first video, besides just a general intro, is where does gold come from? So how do these hard rock gold deposits form? And explains that after they form, as the rock weathers, then it forms the gold deposits in the sand and gravels and stuff like that, which is called a placer deposit. And that type of gold, that's what you see when you watch those shows like Gold Rush and stuff like that. Okay? It's a lot simpler methodology, but the hard rock gold deposits tend to be the richest in general, not in specific, but that's where they've got, mines that have been there 40 years still producing, that sort of thing. They got mines in South Africa that are over a century old and they're still in production. But sometimes placer gold in a creek and stuff, there's various processes that can concentrate the gold. And in that direction there, about 35 miles, and in that direction there, about 35 miles, were two deposits, each of which had
Hi, Alex.
multiple ounces per pan.
How
just one
goes it?
gold pan you had, nowadays it would be the equivalent of $10,000 per pan.
Jean-Francois says the first gold rush in North America was the Beauce region of Quebec,
Okay?
north of Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
They never found the mother lode, huh?
Well, Quebec.
Alex is here.
Yeah, hey, Alex. Quebec's got a lot of minerals in it. Sudbury area, too. How's life treating you, Alex? What have you done lately? Yeah, pretty much, Jean-Francois. I like their attitude. I think it'll work. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Beef that up. So, anyhow, yeah, we don't do the 3 hour things like we used to before, too. We just haven't been doing as much. And without Jim here to provide extra information, a different viewpoint.
Work is really intense, so much to learn, lots of chemistry, fun, and everybody's super nice. Cool.
Well, that's good.
Yay.
Hey, I'm glad you found a place that you're having a good time, and I presume the money is worth it.
And you're planning to teach us the chemistry, I presume.
I think it's semiconductors, so it's not very useful.
Bummer.
I think he's working like, in the semiconductor sort of space. I'm not sure, but it was like laser things, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct, Alex? It's like, what was the name of Spectrum?
Alex says we have a gold pan at work for recovering iridium.
Yeah, iridium's pretty expensive.
Is iridium pretty heavy, I take it?
It's heavier than gold.
Yeah.
It's the second densest element. Osmium just barely beats it out. But they're both understood, Alex.
Oh, military products.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an entirely different kettle of fish there.
It's some kind of optical things and such. So, yeah. High-tech stuff.
He's making spy glasses.
Could be, for all we know. He can't talk. But yeah, I'm glad you found something that you like, and you're having a good time.
He's
That's
making
great.
iridium steampunk goggles. That's what's going on here.
Look at the density.
Yeah. He's making iridium steampunk goggles
Yep.
for the military.
Solid state lasers. Yep. Oh. So,
Oh.
yep. I didn't see Jimmy. Jimmy might be interested in that mine that
Yeah,
Dave had. Been in the right area.
that's true. I mean, we probably ought to talk to Jimmy about that. Wow, a few $1,000,000 for a crucible. Woo-hoo.
Is that because of the temperatures or because of the purity of the material that you have to have for the crucible itself to keep from contaminating it?
Oh my, ho, pretty bad.
If you're burning away uridium, that's really freaking hot. Platinum group.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Well, as long as you're having fun.
I suggest you don't touch that with your finger.
Chris says tantalum?
No idea.
Well, the whole thing sounds highly exotic and very interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to see a multi-$1,000,000 crucible. I mean, just to look at one.
Yeah.
I certainly would not touch one.
It's classified.
Yeah. So one crystal grove where we... Wow. That's crazy.
That's a lot of iridium. Okay, here's what you do. Wash carefully, save the wash water. Repeat every day.
Must be induction heating nearing 100 kilowatts. Yeah, tons of rare earths. That sounds about right. Hey, maybe Alex would know then.
What?
Remember I was asking the other day if rare earth magnets lose their magnetism?
Under what conditions? Like when you heat them or whatever? Or what?
Whatever, because sometimes regular magnets will lose their magnet parts. They will stop being magnetic. Do rare earth magnets ever
Chris
stop
would
being
know that too.
magnetic?
Between the two of them, we should have an answer.
And yeah, that sounds like a fun recovery project.
That's got to be some hot shit.
Well, man, can you imagine? You get a hold of a bunch of iridium oxide and then figure out exactly what's going on.
That's where if you heat it past a certain point, it loses its magnetism, right, Alex? Some things will regain it, but others will just lose it entirely and not regain it when you cool it back down again.
Okay. So all magnets have a Curie point. Okay. I was just curious about that. Wow. Induction in a vacuum. 3000 C, huh? Wow. Well, Jean-Francois, I was just curious as to what the Curie point would be for a freaking neodymium magnet, you know.
Well, the question is too, would it regain it?
Yeah.
Regain its
Would it
magnetism once
gain it
cools
when it
back
cools down?
You know?
Because I know regular iron magnets don't. If you make an old school basic magnet lose its magnet, it doesn't come back.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, just curious. I am very curious about this.
Oh my goodness.
Because, you know.
Low. In other words, it recovers some magnetism, but it's poorly magnetic after that. You take care, Steady Eddie. We're here Mondays, 6 o'clock Montana time. If you have any questions or whatever, you can always.
Alex says it's so
show up.
hot we use multiple welding shields stacked on top of each other to view the melt. So like the sun.
More than that.
Yeah. Brighter than this.
Black body radiation of 3,000 degrees.
That sounds so cool.
Yep. No, he seems to be having a good time. As I say, I'm so glad you found a good place there. You didn't even have to move. So that's way cool. Anyone else got anything? Hey, Mr. Lodak. Yeah, we're kind of winding down at this point here.
Chris says we regularly make plasma much hotter.
Eva's healing up. I'm addressing some health issues that may be nothing, may be significant, don't know. And X-ray film, we're getting some stuff that's working, but it's marginal in terms of cost, even with the best thing we've come up with so far. But I'm having a lot of fun. Welding iridium, yeah, I bet. What would that be? Laser welding? Alex? I can't imagine anything else. I think it'd be laser welding in an inert environment. Uh, I think the aqua regia will also react with the sulfides. I would I would suggest roasting it first before using the aqua regia, Red Wing. 15 seconds. You get a puddle to form, huh? Wow. That's some wild shit there, Alex. You're dealing with some extreme things. Glad you're enjoying it.
My animal magnetism got hot once and never recovered. Yeah, that makes sense. Good night, Jean
Take
Francois.
care, Jean Francois.
That sounds so cool, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just so glad you found something you really like doing. That's cool. And it's close enough you can still do crystal hunting on the weekends if you want.
Chris says his little TIG welder only does 400.
Yeah, roast it at the same time.
Yeah.
If you can get the free gold away from it first, fine. If not, just roast it with it. Roast it, and then, if possible, regrind it a little bit. It'll tend to be pretty soft and porous, but just a little quick regrind won't hurt anything. But yeah, you're trying to react all those compounds so they don't eat up your uh, aqua regia. That's a pretty heavy duty welder there, Alex. But with a 15-second puddle time, you're going to need a 100% duty cycle because you can't afford to have it cut out on you on an overheat. Man. Yep. It's nice that they're all nice, Alex. That's the nice thing. Personalities can make life miserable, you know? Yeah, it's not horribly reactive. What's your shielding gas? Helium? Yeah, I would think that your tungsten rods are going to burn up quick. Yeah. Mm. Hey, I'm from Montana. Argon, huh? Okay. Oh. I'm not that knowledgeable about welding to understand why, Alex. I know what you mean by welding in AC, but yeah. Oh. Oh. Well, does anyone have any questions or subjects at this point? Oh. I would guess, do you basically bevel the work pieces to get the kind of penetration you need? You take care, Lars.
See you all later. Good afternoon, Lars. Take care.
Okay. Yeah, that's one way you can get penetration, Alex, is you bevel the weld so that you can get to the far side immediately and then build it up as you go. Okay, take care, John. I understand, Alex. That's fine. So I'm just really glad to hear you're having a good time doing something interesting and working with fun people. That's way cool. Not only that, but it's climate controlled, unlike what you had to do last summer. Not out in the
Good
rain or
night,
anything.
John. John says good night.
Yeah. Okay, well, you don't use any makeup rod, huh? Quite a bit, I would guess, Alex. Uh, Chris, nobody has enough iridium getting away from them to be hazardous in general. It's like, what's the hazards of multi-carat diamonds? Oh. Oh, oh my goodness. A mini wash plant. Well, they might actually appreciate that idea. I mean, you must be able to do something with iridium oxide to turn it back into iridium. Well, yeah, that's you recover. You send it back to the refiner,
Yeah.
probably. Should be able to do that pretty easily. What's the particle size of the iridium? I presume this is from machining operations. So if it's like machining
Concentrated
chips,
sulfuric acid and chrome vapors. Yikes. Ah.
yeah. So if it's like machining from the iridium like that, it should be pretty easy to capture. Yeah. I would think almost anything would do a decent job on that. Soot, huh? Hmm.
going to be fumed. You just need to make sure it's getting wetted.
Yeah. Pretty small particle size. Yeah, if it's in suspension, the flocculant might work just fine. Not that knowledgeable about flocculants. Well, I think Eva's going to have to take a break here. We're dealing with iridium, but we don't have much of a budget. Huh?
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Multi-million-dollar crucibles, and they don't have much of a budget.
I'm confused. Very, very
I
confused.
mean, gravity separation, sleuths like bears. What do you need the freaking budget for? Oh, good night, everybody. I can't sit any longer over here.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while before they get the government finances straightened around again. That makes sense, Alex.
And the fire's dead again, dude.
I know, little one. I get to it when I get to it. Okay, well, why don't we call it a night, folks? And try and show up earlier next time, Alex. Right now, all the iridium oxide goes down the drain. I cry every time I say, yeah, I would too. You know, put a barrel underneath that drain to where the drain goes down a bit, and then it's got to come back up and overflow. You should catch some of it at least. Yeah. Okay, little one, why don't you come on over here and log us off? Because you got to in there. I can understand that, Alex, but at least you sleep soundly because you had a good time at work.
Well,
You know?
Good night, everybody. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.
Good night, Mr. Virtue.
Ah,
Yeah.
good night, everybody. Ah.